Traveling the Vortex.
We joined the Dr. Donna as they travel the Vortex and arrive in London town at episode 572. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn. And we are together recording in the same room.
Live in person.
For the first time since pre-pandemic, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
We've been recording from home since then. So
Other than the one-off fun and games we did.
That's right. We did do one of those.
Where we did the escape room.
Yep. Wow. So it's good to see your faces again.
Yeah.
I mean, we see each other anyway, but...
Who the hell are you?
What are you doing in my house? Get off my yard.
Stranger danger!
Well, of course, we're going to try to get this out early because we want to give our review of Doctor Who The Star Beast, which just dropped this weekend. We've all had a chance to watch it, and so we're going to take a stab at reviewing it. And Keith, do you have a synopsis for us?
I do. The Doctor lands in London to find an old friend, a new enemy, and aliens wreaking havoc.
That was it, huh?
That's the official Disney Plus
The
synopsis.
Disney Plus synopsis.
Bomb, bomb,
I'm assuming it's the same as the BBC synopsis.
Well, Sean liked it. Keith, what'd you
I
think?
liked it. I liked it a lot.
I simply blown away by this thing. We were watching it with my kids, and my daughter Caitlin said, "Well, I guess Disney money really does help a lot, doesn't it?"
Okay. Show of hands. Who was impressed with the Disney money that was displayed on screen?
Pretty impressive effects. Well, I don't know if you guys watched the bonus features at all, but Meep was actually there in person with him. It wasn't CGI. It was just the facial expressions.
In fact,
that were
I could tell that it was a puppet, at least, because at times the Doctor was holding its hands, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's." I mean, that's you can tell when somebody's holding a air, as opposed to even when it's CGI. But there, you could tell he had something tactile in his hands, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I mean, it's not without problems. Don't get me wrong. It's not the most perfect special ever.
But did we expect it to be perfect?
No. But it's also, and I'll freely admit, I'm riding high right now on New Who, so there is definitely some of that happening that's maybe coloring my perception a little bit.
Well, there's not only New Who, it's David Tennant and Catherine Tate back in their roles and doing a good job not overriding anything that came before, in my opinion, and allowing Donna's story to progress and resolve in a satisfactory manner 95% of the way.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Although what really, really, really surprised me is going into this, I thought, okay, they're going to lift some story elements from the Star Beast comic book. And I was really surprised how many elements they used.
There is quite a bit.
Yeah. And
it's a true adaptation. Really.
Yeah.
Even down to Fudge having a cameo.
Fudge had an appearance in there. Even the unit soldier. I didn't know that they were going to do the unit soldiers being taken up. Now they changed the name. It wasn't like Plaque Sun Energy or whatever, but it was radiation from that sun.
It's psychedelic sun this time.
Right, psychedelic sun, because he says specifically, and I wrote it down, that he noticed that their eyes had psychedelia, something like solar psychedelia, I think it was called it.
Which looked a lot like the Vortex from the Open.
Yeah, it kind of did.
Okay, we got to talk about the Open. Oh, it's so pretty.
Oh yeah, so gorgeous.
Like take all of the Doctor Who opens from New Who that we've gone ooh ah, and put them together, and that's what this one looks like. Yeah, because it was just ooh ah.
The only thing missing is a face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go there.
Well, that's just it. It invoked that old style, that classic style, but it had a lot of new to it as well.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And seeing the diamond logo come up was just right there. I hope they keep it, and I don't think they. I don't know. I hope they will, but I don't think
at the very least, we're going to keep that.
This diamond, yeah.
Well, not even that, but we're going to keep that. The long logo, because they've got that up in the offices at Bad Wolf. I mean, that logo is on the wall. Now, you can easily paint that over and put something else up, I'm sure. But I think that at least is in it for the long haul, the font that they're using.
Yeah.
So.
We are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations in publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulke, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
They all say, who is Doctor Who?
This is Tim Treloar.
This is David J. Howe.
I'm Peter Purvis.
I am Sadie Miller.
This is Lauren Cornelius.
Larry, it's Fraser.
For all things in the Doctor Who collecting world and beyond, the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting for 42 years. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex on the Direction Point Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Rupert Booth.
I am known as Paul Ferry.
And my name is Barry Williams.
Together, we host Time Ram.
Time Ram's a cruel mistress.
It's a random number generator.
That also.
We roll a number from 1 to 13, and that's our Doctor. Then 1 to 300 for the story, and then we ram them together.
Even if it doesn't make sense.
Cruel, I tell you.
Time Ram, putting the wrong Doctors in the wrong stories, so you don't have to.
You're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
I'm trying to decide how early I want to launch into nitpicky.
Mm-hmm. No, I
have a couple of things.
Yeah, I think. Well, okay. Let's start with all the pros.
Let's start with all the
highs. Yeah. Let's just go to that. And first,
Open's awesome.
Open was awesome. I think that I love the new unit scientific
number 56.
Yeah, number 56. and he says, "Yeah, I was number 1." Said, yeah, I mean, we know. Yeah.
I get a bonus for meeting you.
Yeah. But then even later.
Having the chair that held all the different...
well, even in that same conversation he says something as she's leaving, I've waited all your life.
Oh, yeah,
she's like, you wish. I love that fact
so it wasn't
she was the complete opposite of Osgood.
Yeah, she didn't do the fangirling all over.
Yeah. And then later with the chair having the weapons built into it is so totally unit, it makes sense.
I like to think that Osgood's the reason why people get a bonus for meeting the Doctor.
Probably. Probably comes out of her personal paycheck.
Right. The action's nonstop. I love the fact that it's paced really well. There's not a lot of downtime. And when they do have some downtime and some of that just compassionate dialogue, it makes sense. It's very pertinent, and I think that worked really well for the story as well. But the pacing and movement of it, I think, is great.
Very fast, and the tone helps. Even though there's those emotional moments, it's not a downer. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize as much as I enjoyed Chibnall's run, it had such a somber tone to it the whole time, that having this be so bombastic and so much fun to watch, even when it's got those emotional moments, the contrast is stark.
This very much feels like RTD's era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But modernized, updated, and I think brought into like a more current age. And he's obviously, I think, evolved as a storyteller, too.
And he's got Disney money now. I did not realize how much I would miss Donna's mom until she showed up. And then it was just like, aw. And she's still Donna's mom.
Yeah. In this, though, she's... In the past, they've used the character as sort of a comic relief, that abrasive irritant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that you don't care for that much because of the way they treat Donna or because of the way that... And now it's like she's sort of grown. She's still annoying, but she's grown as a character, and they use her to the benefit of she loves Donna so much, and the Doctor told her, if she remembers, she'll die. And she's doing her best to try to get in the way so that Donna won't see the doctor and
or anything,
for some reason remember.
Mom, there's an alien crashing. Sure. And you can tell
Donna,
in that scene.
Did you see that, Donna? She even asked because she's concerned now. The mom asked, "Did you see it?" And she's no, of course not.
And then she immediately defaults to, well, there are no such thing as aliens. It's all fake. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And just, I loved the fact that Donna had her own mental blocks up that would not allow her to look up at a spaceship. That was just her brain wasn't, to protect herself. Her brain wasn't prepared to accept that.
Well, she already had sort of that luck anyway, even before she met the doctor. Remember how many things she missed.
Yeah.
But yes.
But to keep on with that, and then to have the rest of the family all know, because I got the impression that Sean was like that too, that he was kind of looking out for her and like, no, we're not gonna acknowledge that, and Granddad moved away to. It's like, oh, you're killing me, because I can visualize the entire Wilf rationalization for that. I can see him doing it.
Right.
So all of that was great. But yeah, her mom was really cool. I love Rose.
Rose was great.
Instantly. Fantastic character. We need her in the TARDIS. When is that going to happen?
It's my understanding from a statement she made in an interview that she's going to be returning. So
okay.
Yeah.
I'm holding to it because that should be a thing.
She said something about having more adventures in the TARDIS. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, good. Because I can totally see her coming back in not the next special, but the special after that.
Yeah.
But hopefully beyond that, because I agree, she was absolutely fantastic. And I like how they incorporated the trans element into it as part of the story of the conflicts and the issues she's dealing with. That part I thought was really fantastic. I have issues with what they do later in the story with her, but other than that, I thought it was fantastic.
I liked the fact that it was a true adaptation of the Star Beast, so that it really nailed the majority of the story beats and just kind of grafted Donna and family onto that story in lieu of certain other characters, but that it was all there. I feel like the psychotropic sun element probably could have used just a little bit of more fleshing out, that's what that was that caused it, that it wasn't just that it affected the Meeps, but that he brought a piece of it with him.
That wasn't really explained.
I think, though, understanding that it came from the Meep ship, I think that helped.
That helped, but that was it wasn't until after, when I was thinking about it, that I went, oh yeah, they did talk about that in the comic, that we did, that was a thing. So even somebody who's read it, I could have used a little bit more. Just give me a drop line or something about that. Okay, good.
Part of what helps it makes more sense in the comic, in my opinion, is the ship is powered by the sun drive that corrupted them, and this isn't that way because it's this dagger drive thing instead. And so had they been able to incorporate the two together, I think you wouldn't have had to rationalize it in your head later.
The dagger drive was going to do essentially the same thing, though. So I like that they stuck to that
part.
Concept.
Yes, I agree. The roads coming back together afterwards just because it was fixed is a little bit of a, okay, that's RTD back to his old tricks. But,
It's a special.
Undo.
Big disaster. Big fix.
Right.
I love the Meep. I love the design. The way it was actualized and realized was fantastic.
I like how much it goes from completely cute and adorable to very evil looking. That was really very, very well done.
And since we didn't get the inner dialogue like we did in the comic, for those that don't know, it's more of a surprise.
Yeah.
I liked the callback to the Fourth Doctor keeping a wig in the hat.
Yeah.
That was a fun moment.
I am kind of glad they took the bomb out of it, where they implanted the bomb. The Wrath Warriors had implanted a bomb in the Doctor because they thought he was an associate of the Meep.
It kind of softened the Rarith.
They kept saying Wrath. I mean, even though it's W-R-A-T-H, they kept saying, or W-A-R-T-H.
Well, when they spelled it out at one point on screen, and there's an extra R in there.
There is.
That Wrath would not have. And I was like, okay. So
maybe it's silent.
I just assumed they were Wrath. It's the R that I keep trying to put in Dalek because they put in the they put it in Wraith. But just across the board, it was so much fun. It was energetic. It was, really Who at its best. What we've kind of come to hope for and expect in a way from Doctor Who. We did watch it as a family after a very full day because we did our family Thanksgiving on Saturday, and so we had kids over and cousins and nephews and people running all over the house, big turkey dinner, and then had to drive in the huge snowstorm that we had. So we had a very, very, very hectic day and didn't get to it until later that night, which I was going out of my gourd.
Oh, you didn't watch till Saturday night.
I watched it in the evening.
Oh.
Kids wouldn't watch it with me. Well, Liam wouldn't. Jim said she was willing to.
I got a little antsy about noon because the kids were watching YouTube, and I was like, can we get it over to Disney Plus in case it starts early? Or I watched it as it dropped.
Just as it dropped.
Although I thought it was going to be one of those kind of live event things where you watched it live for that for 58 minutes or whatever it was, and then it became streaming. But it wasn't. As soon as it rolled over, like 12:31. As soon as it rolled over, it would just said play, and I could have scrolled to the end if I wanted to. So
yeah.
But I told everybody because we had to get everybody home in the snow, which was going to be a huge thing. It was going to be this ordeal, and I told everybody when we get back, we're watching Doctor Who. This is a thing. And so I was like, I don't want to watch. I was like, we're watching Doctor Who. If you don't want to watch it, you can go to bed.
Right.
So she opted. Okay, if you're going to give me a choice like that, I'm going to stay up and watch Doctor Who. And she was engaged. Yeah. She really, she didn't just watch it like, this is something Papa wants to watch, which she has done before, Muppets. But she watched it and she was into it. And she really loved the Meep until he revealed, I'm evil, the Meep's a bad guy. And then she didn't like the Meep anymore. But I don't know that she got all of it, but she had a good time watching it. And afterwards, she was like, okay, yeah, that wasn't too bad. So I'm hoping that if we get 3 weeks in a row of good Doctor Who, maybe this will hook her.
But, just keep in mind, RTD has said the next one is scary.
Yeah.
And the one after that is very surreal, and intense. So
maybe not.
Maybe you ought to scream them first and then show them to her.
That's probably not a bad idea. She will be 8.
Well, he said he was writing it for 8-year-olds.
Yeah, he did.
He said he was writing it with 8-year-olds in mind.
Yeah, he did.
And she was...
Of course, British 8-year-olds probably have a different perspective.
And she was snuggled up with Mel on the couch with a dog on one side or Mel on the other side in a blanket.
No, he said it's about 8-year-olds is what he said.
From the perspective of an 8-year-old.
Oh, did he? Okay. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it okay.
Who knows? And every kid's different.
That's true. Some kids can handle it, some kids can't.
So can we talk about the absolute greatest, bestest thing ever?
The new TARDIS
The
interior?
New TARDIS interior. Oh my God.
I love how open it is and spacious it is. I love that it invokes the original console room. I love that it has lots of roundels, and I love that the roundels are all LED.
And change colors. That's really impressive.
I loved how excited the 14th Doctor was when he saw it and went running around. Love everything about it except for but apparently Donna's now destroyed it. So
set it on fire. It's a little, as much as I like it, it feels a little too sleek and modern. It feels like a little bit trying to be a Star Trek bridge at times.
Well, who knows if it'll stay around either.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's going to. I think
you think so?
RTD is. I thought I saw a headline somewhere that RTD's was talking about the new console sticking around.
Oh, okay, good. Because I like it. I like it a lot.
I think it was just that initial shot. Once you get the smaller, not as wide angle, it wasn't quite as slick. Especially once I got to see more of the console itself, not being all shiny white and
the console still has kind of that, oddball.
That's
got a coffee
the part
machine.
I really like about it. It's got that almost rustic, almost not quite steampunk, but not quite industrial look to it that makes it feel more like Doctor Who and less like they're trying to emulate other sci-fi.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't know that maybe I can allow that because my absolute favorite Enterprise bridge is the one from the very end of Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
And that's what this reminds me
and that's because it's gleaming white.
Yes.
Right.
But I think I liked that Enterprise bridge because it reminded me of the Fifth Doctor or Fourth Doctor console room because it was gleaming white.
Right.
So walking into that was just like, oh, the roundels, the size, the scope of it's super impressive.
I think it even harkens back more to the console that was in, I mean, just from kind of stylized look, that was in the Five Doctors. I think it's very much...
especially the time rotor itself with all the kind of crystalline
right.
Features in it. I loved the kind of callback to Matt Smith's TARDIS with the ramps and the multi-level.
Massive size of the room.
And just, I mean, it was, again, it's one of those things where they took a little bit from each era to kind of celebrate where we've been and where we're going. And just, loved it. Yeah. Loved it.
Gorgeous.
So on the downside, and I hesitate to say downside, I am a little conflicted over how flippant the Doctor was in dealing with Donna. Because the story of Donna is so tragic. It's almost worse than a character or companion death. Because it's a complete reversal of everything that she had, everything that she gained, everything that she was, everything that she could be. And we're going to take it back and hit that reset button and leave her this former shell of where she came from. But with the added baggage of knowing that there was something else, but I can't quite grasp what it was. Oh, well, I won't worry about it today. But knowing that it's preying at her and eating at her and, scratching in the corners of her mind. And that is just absolutely heartbreaking. Then the added gut punch of she can't see me or she will die. Her brain will burn out because it won't be able to handle it. And then he sees her and we get a great comedic moment.
Can't remember me is what he says.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Because she sees him again at the end of Journey's End after
briefly.
He's wiped the brain. Because
he says, Donna, I'm leaving. And she goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not been undone before.
But
they're making a big deal about not being able to see him. But, yeah, it
just felt, okay, you don't need her family to solve the mystery of the Meep. But you keep dragging them all back into what these events are.
He explained that, though. He explained that he was drawn here. The TARDIS number 1 is drawn here specifically. And then he's immediately meets up with Donna. And then immediately he finds out that she's named her kid Rose. And then, so it's all these things that I think he's starting to put together that fate has brought them back together for some reason. And I think curiosity kicks in and he has to figure out why this is happening.
He had nothing to do with Rose finding me.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like he could control any of that. He was off doing his own thing, trying to avoid them until he had to collide with them again in order to solve the situation.
Because he did go to that steel workers' mill to investigate.
Once he gets involved and he's there at the house and we're bandaging the Meep and we're taking care of it, it's like, you could have taken the Meep out of there at any point in time, but you're still laying around. I get the curiosity thing. I totally get that because it's like the Impossible Girl.
Yeah,
there's a mystery to be solved. But when the stakes are killing your best friend,
I also have to think though that something's drawn them together, so he realizes that, and he thinks that there's some reason why they're together. So Donna obviously is important again, and so he's got to stay as close by as he can. And I think he's very tepid at first, but he has that whole first encounter with her, and nothing jars her memory. She doesn't remember. So I think maybe he's starting to rationalize the fact that okay, maybe it will be safe enough to be around her. And she, it's maybe still be a little careful. I think that he's realizing he can still be there because whatever the memory wipe that he did is holding and is doing a adequate job. So I think that's why he's not in a rush to get away from her. And I think he's still trying to avoid letting her remember, but I think he realizes that the defenses of whatever he left behind are much better than he expected. So I kind of gave him a pass for that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the happy ending. I like the fact that we have fixed the metacrisis issue. But it's a little hand wavy.
Well, and just the idea of where women, we can just let it go, to that doesn't quite work for me.
Well, it's because you're a man.
Well, maybe that's the case, but scientifically that doesn't quite make sense. Although I can then later, as I thought about it, could rationalize it away as they have that ability, just like the Doctor can call up regeneration energy at any time to heal River Song's arm. So I mean, it's kind of one of those. How is that supposed to work? Okay, it's kind of happened similarly in the past, so I can forgive it after I think about it.
It's one of those Father Christmas moments versus one of those mad scientist moments.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm happy that we got a happy ending. You know me, I love happy endings. I'm thrilled that we did that. But with the initial part of it, the Doctor gets hunches, and you can tell he's playing a hunch, that he's like, I think this is what's going on, and then he's willing to push it to find out if he's right. Mm-hmm. This didn't even feel like a hunch. This was just him kind of blundering into their lives and writing it out to see what happened. And like I said, with the Clara and the Impossible Girl mystery and how driven he was to solve that, I get the drive, but the stakes in my mind are so much higher on this one because it's Donna. Then when we get to the end of that, and it's kind of like fixed, in a way, as happy as I am about it, I feel like that almost cheapens the tragedy of Donna Noble, because that was such a huge gut punch at the time. Now, I don't think we're done with that story.
That's it.
We have 2 more specials looming.
Right, and obviously everything's going to come to a big head there at the end. Not to mention, I from the Meep said, well, the boss will be interested to hear about this. You know, there's only so many species that have 2 hearts, and I thought that was kind of...
Yeah, well, and then you have to wonder who is this person, the Meep, who is a fanatical, me kind of individual, and that mindset. Who could possibly be the boss that the Meep would be willing to be subservient to? That's it. Now, I mean, we kind of know.
I'm sitting there going, we don't know
where that's going. But that's
unless
scary.
It's setting up a longer game.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. Really. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you didn't know what was coming, if you weren't metagaming, it's like, who could the Meep be? So, but again, some of that's comic book knowledge coming into it too, based on
although there's not a connection in the comic there either.
No, but just how the Meep is that level of.
Well, I don't know. I think they conveyed that pretty well enough, because when they're explaining about what happened to the Meep, and he was the most vicious one, and they had eaten the head. I mean,
he was the grand leader.
So I'll have to ask you guys what you thought, because this didn't bother me, but it seemed to bother my family. What did you think of using the Sonic with the little shields things?
I didn't like that.
Okay,
that's a bit too much of a stretch.
I knew you were gonna be bothered by it, and I thought maybe you'd be bothered by it too.
It's another one I'm torn on, because when he's sitting there using it and he's got a view screen in front of him that it's projecting, and he's flipping through things, that he's got some sort of tactile interface that he's brought that screen that came from the Sonic. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Well, now it's got a readout other than that little tiny.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's cool that it's, for those of us that are getting older and like to larger view screens, right. And the fact that it translates some of what he's looking at.
We'll be able to do it with our phone. Our phones eventually will be able to do that.
Yeah. So that element of it is kind of cool, and wow, Disney money at work. Making shields out of thin air. I'm not sure how that would work.
It was a Sonic panel.
But it was cool.
It looked good.
I was fine with it.
Really good. Now, does that break every chase sequence to come from now on? Because, well, why don't you just draw a Sonic shield?
Well, it wasn't overpowered, though. It was only going to be there long enough to get the family from one door to the other.
Yeah.
That's all it was for. And it showed that there was a weakness, because eventually they blasted through it.
Yes.
And so I don't think it's a quick fix or an easy out for anybody to write to later. I may be proven wrong later. I also didn't have a problem with it, because I think if it's the sonic screwdriver since New Who has started has been a Swiss Army knife. It's just an all-purpose. It's a writer's way out of a situation, and I've always been, I think, a little more fine with that. It's never bothered me that much, and so when I saw that, they were going, oh, okay, Sonic can do this now. And I thought, well, number one, it's a brand new Sonic. He's always updating it. It's always being updated, whether it's him or not. And so this is just one more element that's been added, and it's fine. Now, if that particular thing gets overused, yeah, maybe I'll be bothered by it. But I did new screwdriver, new tool. That's the way I looked at it.
I think I'm a little softer on it because then the next thing they show it doing is, it's really good at resonating concrete. It's like, okay,
that's what it does.
Yeah, that is an acceptable use of it. So,
although it's funny that he called it concrete and Sean said it's mortar. It's actually mortar.
Yeah, Mel and I were both kind of like, huh.
Anybody else think, though, that was a very clever, simple thing that I never would have thought of? It just was like, how are you going to get through that brick? We're just going to dissolve the concrete, push the bricks through, get to the next house, and then the next house, and then the next house.
Does that now break every chase scene?
Only if you're in someone's attic.
No, because I believe he would have been able to do that all along, because it did do what it describes it's going to do. So.
Well, it's like the Flash. The first time the Flash finds out that he can vibrate his molecules fast enough to pass through physical matter. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can do that all the time now, right? I mean, right. That's the end of every fight. You just phase into somebody. How do you create these overpowered characters and do this to them? I don't know. It's Doctor Who. So
yeah, but they did put a stopgap on there with the fact that he metabolizes energy faster than anybody, and so there is points where he can't be as fast as he can be because he doesn't have the energy to do so. So he does have a kryptonite.
I guess maybe that's what we need for the Sonic. If we're going to give it phenomenal cosmic powers, it needs to have itty-bitty living space. It's got to have some sort of, okay, I can't use it now because it needs to recharge for the rest of the episode. Okay, yeah, I'd have been okay with that. So,
of course, he doesn't use it much beyond that.
No, just to resonate concrete.
He doesn't. I was surprised. He doesn't even use it when he's trying to shut down the dagger drive either. So,
okay, so the dagger drive scene, I got very uncomfortable. Started my anxiety kind of kicked in because
were you getting claustrophobic or
yes, and Donna's remembering.
Oh yeah,
and this is going to be bad. And then we get this partition between the two of them, and it's like, we'll flashback. I mean, I was just,
they did that on purpose.
Well, and
especially some of the dialogue was very similar.
That's just it. The dialogue went there too. Yeah,
wasn't ready. And then when Tennant's voice cracked, when he goes, "Why does it have to be this?" I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's a time that works out for him, though, this time.
Yes.
Last time it didn't necessarily... It worked out. He saved Wilf, but he had to make some sacrifices. This time he had to make a sacrifice, but he didn't need to make a sacrifice.
Pretty much every mention of Wilf in this thing was just heartbreaking for me.
Yeah. That was the other thing is there's...
I love that, man.
There's video of him running back behind the scenes of him running him around in a...
I know he filmed something,
Yeah, in a wheelchair. And I assumed it would be in this. We didn't see it. In fact, I was a little taken back when they said, well, he's gone. I thought, oh, well, they've kind of just written the character out. He's not with us anymore. And then, no, he's over at he's at a care home. And so...
And Kate Lethbridge Stewart's footing the bill.
Yes! And then I thought, okay, so maybe he will be somewhere in these specials, but I mean, there's a good chance that...
behind the scenes that's on YouTube, he's at the read-through.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I think it's in because I think they read through all 3 episodes. So I'm betting he's in episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah, they did say, how about we go see Wolf?
Episodes,
right. Yeah, I mean, the whole end of the episode, we're going to go see Wolf.
Yeah, that's right.
Although, why would they take the TARDIS instead of just driving over? I don't know, but whatever.
Because
when has that ever gone
right?
Well,
because I think the Doctor thought it'd be really cool to materialize in his room.
Probably.
And surprising.
Yeah.
Because
making an entrance
of anybody's place you can materialize in, it's him because he knows he isn't. It's a wonderful surprise for him.
And why? Come on, Rose. Yeah, let her go. What are you stopping her for, Mrs. Noble? Let her go. Donna. Oh no, you don't. Yes, she does. Let her go. I'm screaming at my TV. Yeah, I very much appreciate how British the TARDIS apparently is. That A cup of tea spilled on it is A-okay.
It was coffee. It was coffee.
A cup of tea is A-okay.
Oh, but a coffee.
A cup of coffee is the end of the world, and it blows up.
Good point.
Sometimes you just need a good cup of tea, and coffee is not it. So I got a chuckle out of that. I don't know if that was the intent, but it was like,
It may have been. I didn't catch it at all.
The one other thing I had issue with was the fact that apparently the meta-crisis aspect was the reason why Rose was trans. And I didn't think that was quite... I had issue with it because why can't we just have a trans person on the show that's trans without an explanation of, well, this is why they are the way they are. I thought that was not necessarily appropriate.
I didn't necessarily, and maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't necessarily think wasn't why she was the way she is, but because of the way she is why she could share the meta-crisis, or why she could be connected to it.
See, I got the impression from the dialogue that it was she came out the way she did because of the meta-crisis. That because the Doctor is non-binary, or because they both are binary, she then becomes non-binary. So, to me, that was my interpretation.
They did say that. And I wondered if they were playing on the words, but it may have been literal.
Yeah, I don't know.
It may have been, I'm going to play devil's advocate, it may have been an attempt to justify having a trans character and explaining that it's a trans character, and this is why we're explaining it's a trans character.
I think the problem was, though, with that explanation, you shouldn't have to. And number one, they addressed it at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, and they did it just fine with that. Yeah. And I think, because there's that segment of the population that any time you bring in a non-white male character for whatever reason, they just go off because they think, oh, you're woke, you're ruining TV, you're blah 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 blah. And there's a line that feels like it needs to be walked to. Okay, we introduced a bisexual character and we told you that they're bisexual, and then everybody goes, well, why did I need to know that? Why is that important to who they are? Why can't they just be a character? And so this kind of sidesteps that argument by it was integral to the plot, but I agree with it. If that was the reasoning for it, then it was silly, and it was...
What's also surprising is I could kind of expect something like this from Moffat or even Chibnall, but the fact that RTD would do this, too, is surprising to me. I think I just... Because he was also the one to introduce so many of those forward-thinking characters in the show in the past, that to have this feels, wow, it's great to have her as a character in the show as a trans person. It feels like a backstep as to well, this is why she's trans.
I agree. And I would be curious to know more. You watched the behind the scenes. I'm guessing they didn't cover that.
They didn't really talk about that, no, but maybe I didn't watch the Unleashed, because there's a YouTube behind the scenes that's obviously everywhere, but the Unleashed hasn't been released domestically, stateside yet. So I don't know if they talk about that more. I mean, Yasmin, the actress, does talk about how she read the script, saw it was a trans person, I'm going to totally go for it, and talked about that aspect of it, not any character or story-driven aspects of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, then we'll have to see if we can get the Unleashed and...
Yeah, see if he kind of says anything about that. I don't know.
I already booked tickets for last week. I'm not flying you guys back over there again so you can see Unleashed.
We really need a dual citizenship is what we need.
If you would like to support Traveling the Vortex, become a dual citizenship.
Anything else about the story of the episode?
Oh, if you want, I could gush about this for another hour.
It's so exciting to go back and see that.
And I know I've said this before. What crazy mixed up world do we live in that Doctor Who, the show that was so underground and was on VHS, and if you found somebody else who watched it, you made a friend for life because
in the States, from our perspective,
you're into that weird British show. Yeah, I'm into that, and just instantly, wow, is now on Disney Plus with a landing screen and a title card and a just. And when the credits came up, and it was BBC and Bad Wolf and Disney, and the Disney logo's in the credits. I mean, just sometimes the timeline gets it right. I'm just. You don't understand, Keith. You weren't there.
But I mean, even at the beginning, when we started the podcast, it was still a fairly underground show in the U.S. It wasn't huge.
No,
like
it was a Sci-Fi Channel thing, is what it was.
Yeah, if you would go to a convention, it would be, oh look, there's a Doctor Who thing, and now it's just commonplace.
Well, and you got brought in right at the kind of that peak,
that swell
between Tennant and Smith. You kind of hit right in that crest, and. Yeah, I just...
Although we had it worse because we also were farther away from... In the big cities, we would have found more people were connected. Not many more.
Not many more,
I mean,
but yeah.
That doesn't undersell your statement at any rate, but we had it even worse because of the fact that we were so removed from that sort of thing.
I mean, just when Mel was... when we first started dating, and she was over at my house once, and I was finishing up something on the computer, and she came over, and she looked up and I had my Tom Baker poster on the wall. And she goes, "Oh, Doctor Who." Well, if I didn't love this woman before. Pourquoi? You know who the doctor... I mean, it was that same reaction just instantly. And so, I don't know, maybe it's just a weird perspective of mine to go through that. But I'm still not over it. It's just wild. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited that it's accessible and popular, and that people are digging it. That to me is just. Has anybody seen what the internet scuttlebutt? I've seen a handful of reactions on Facebook, and they've all been positive.
I've not
to this
really
episode.
I was
curious.
I haven't looked much, but yeah, I'm in a group on Facebook, and so I've seen peripherally some things that they've been posting, and it's for the most part been positive. So
good.
They were, and they were all ganging up on one guy that was talking about how woke it was. So. I'm not even sure he's in the group anymore. Anyway,
was he flounced?
Should have been woker, I guess.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Fitz-Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to Traveling the Vortex.
All right, well, what we got coming up on the schedule? This will be real easy, Sean.
No! What's the name of the next one?
The Giggle? No, the Giggle's the last one.
Yeah, Wild Blue Yonder.
Giggle's the last one.
So, available on Disney Plus.
Bottle episode, apparently all in the TARDIS, so we'll see.
Yeah.
That's what it appears, anyway.
Did anybody look at the posters when they released them?
Mm-hmm. It's some weird thing in the background, some weird robot in the background.
So the poster images came out, and it's like, okay, cool, Star Beast, and and then just this one with this kind of white background and stretching into infinity, and then the white background's a TARDIS. It finally, I clicked as I went back and looked at it. It was like, oh, it's like, here's the console, here's this, but it's like repeated.
Yeah.
It's some sort of twisty, like they broke it.
Yeah.
And it's all
it didn't
multidimensional.
It didn't catch my eye either until after I realized that, that's the TARDIS that we're seeing in the background.
Yeah, it's like, I get it now. So cool. But we will be discussing that next. And because I did not get my homework finished, we might be able to squeeze in the Daleks in color.
Which also came out actually on the anniversary. So.
Right.
All right, well, you can find us at travelingthevortex.com. If you get any value out of this podcast, why not put some value back into it? You can do that by clicking on that Patreon link and supporting us. And, of course, you can give us a 5-star rating wherever you find this podcast. We would be much appreciative. Anything else before we close this one? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Direction point! Direction point!
A Doctor Who podcast network.